Hello, fellow Rebel Capitals. Hope you're well. So we have got some big news. And I think after watching this video, you could come to the conclusion that it's official. The stuff is starting to hit the fan. And that chart that I showed you in the thumbnail, that's an actual chart of what has happened in this multi-billion, almost $1 trillion market just over the last couple months. I mean, this is staggering stuff. Now, what I want to do is I want to start off by going over a video or a clip from Fox News. And this is from, well, you'll see who it is. And the punchline here is, I think he gives some pretty good insights, but it sounds like this quote unquote expert has probably been watching a lot of my videos. Just watch this and you'll see exactly what I'm referring to. And by the way, I was just hanging out with his brother in Miami. So I know his brother's a big fan. So maybe he's turned his twin brother onto the Rebel Capitalist channel as well.
And sellers alike feeling a massive struggle to close deals or make money. And if you need yet another sign of turmoil, 45% of U.S. real estate agents are struggling to pay rent on their offices. Here to react is private equity fund manager and real estate investor, Grant Cardone. Welcome, Grant.
Grant Cardone. This girl's never heard of him in her whole life.
Tell me, why are real estate owners and agents not able to pay the rent? What is going on?
Well, because, Rachel, the Fed single-handedly has killed the housing market. The Fed will make more renters in this country in the next 2 years than it has in the last 50, because mortgage applications are at all-time lows. Mortgages are double what rent is today. And it doesn't surprise me that real estate agents are feeling the brunt of this. Back in June of 22, Jerome Powell said that the middle class, everyday people would disproportionately feel the pain of higher interest rates in his attempt to control inflation. He has not controlled inflation. He has failed miserably. What he has actually done is create it and, in the meantime, stop the housing industry.
What would you recommend he do?
Well, what he should do is get out of the way. There's no.
I got to agree with Grant there. What the Jerome Powell, just the whole central planners, just get out of the way and let the markets determine what the interest rate should be. It works well. Why is it that we're so, or at least we like to give lip service to the free market? I say we, and I'm talking about the central planners. Even in the United States, they're like, oh, we want a free market. We want a free market. Really? Well, why not in the most important price or the most important market of all? And that's the price of money. Interest rates. Why do we want to distort that? But let's keep going. And this is where you'll start to hear Grant give some insights, which would lead one to believe that he's been watching the George Gammon channel.
No time in history in my lifetime that the Fed actually controlled interest rates. Supply and demand is what controls interest rates. As long as people are spending their money, that means they want that product or service. At what point it gets to a price where I no longer find it valuable, I will no longer continue to purchase that.
So interest rates are dictated by growth and inflation expectations. The Fed doesn't have much control over those rates, although they distort them. That's basically what he's trying to say. And someone I know says that pretty much every single day on these videos.
And people want homes. People want to live in a single family home. I don't personally think it's a great investment. I've said that many times. I've gotten ragged out on it, but he should step aside, get out of the way, let the market do its thing. Interest rates will have to come down in order for pricing to come down.
Right.
This is actually a contradiction to what most people think, but when interest rates come down, mortgage applications will go up, and people will start selling their homes.
Okay. When interest rates come down, now I don't know if he could be just kind of mixing his words there, but my take from that is interest rates come down and then prices will come down as well. And my take there is that what he's been doing is he's been understanding that low interest rates means bad economy. And if we've got bad economy, then most likely nominal prices come down. Now, you may be saying, okay, George, I get this, but where does this chart come into play? And this effectively, well, not just effectively, this literal crash that we have seen in a market that is, depending on who you measure it, between 500 billion and $1 trillion. And this applies directly to real estate. And more importantly, it applies to the global banking system. Because if the global banking system freezes up, regardless of where the problem is, we're going to feel it right here in the United States. That's basically what caused the GFC. And I always tell people that if the GFC, if the trigger to that, let's say the catalyst, was the US market, but that had a ripple effect across the entire world. Why? Because it was really a banking system problem. Okay, then why couldn't a real estate crash in China do the exact same thing? Especially when you consider the Chinese market is even bigger than the United States market. But the problem right now is well, it's in China. It's a lot of different places. But check out this next chart. This is going to completely blow you away. And if you haven't been paying attention to this stuff, it is now officially stiff drink time. That is for sure. I didn't even realize how badly this market was crashing. So let me do a screen share, and we'll go over to a couple different articles. Now, you hear in the United States all the time that the reason we cannot have a real estate crash. In fact, I just did a video on how Dave Ramsey says this over and over and over. We can't have a real estate crash. We're at low supply, low supply, low supply. You nutburger. He just says this over and over and over again. And I just, it just, if you just think it through for 10 seconds, it doesn't make any sense. But to prove my point, let's go right over to an article from globalpropertyguide.com. Now, what they're doing is kind of a summary of specific real estate markets across the world. And here they're talking about the German market in 2022. Let me read it right from the article. So this is not my interpretation. This is not my summary. This is reading it word for word. Germany has suffered an acute housing shortage for decades. Let me repeat. Germany has suffered an acute housing shortage for decades. Sound familiar? In the mid-1990s, there was a substantial drop in housing completions, in part caused by policy changes, such as a rise in VAT from 3% to 19% in 2007, and the abolition of owner purchase subsidies. From an annual average of 476,000 permits from 1992 to 1999, dwelling permits fell substantially to an average of 222,000 permits every year from 2001 to 2015. Dwelling permits increased year over year slightly in 2019, but then they went back down. Let's see, 2020. And now they're seeing year over year declines in these housing permits. Looks like in 2018, 2017. So the bottom line is back in the 90s and early 2000s, they're right around 400,000, 500,000. Today, they're between, let's just say, 300 and 380,000. So what this has led to is a structural shortage in housing in Germany. Again, this is what you hear over and over and over again from the Dave Ramseys of the world. And this is why we cannot, it's impossible. It's just simple supply and demand. And the only way for prices to come down is if you have additional supply or whatever they want to throw at you, whatever rationalization they want to use to make themselves feel better about their investments. That's really the bottom line here. So now let's fast forward to the next article. And this is a little more recent here, the end of 2023. German home prices tumble amid property rout. Now, keep in mind, just 1 year earlier, they're talking about structurally low supply and how this has been a problem for decades in Germany, and how this is why the property prices, they just will not come down. They just won't. And here you go. The market is not only tumbling, that is an understatement. Look at this chart. And that's where we go to the chart that you saw in the thumbnail. If I can find it. Well, this isn't a specific chart. I wonder why here. But this gives you the gist. Just in the last year, housing prices in nominal terms are down over 10%. And in real terms, and that's the chart that we use for the thumbnail, they're down even further. So now let's move on. Actually, let's see what they have to say here. So residential property prices in Germany continue to fall, dropping to 10.2% in the third quarter from a year earlier. So year over year, in further grim sign for the real estate sector in Europe's largest economy. It was the fourth consecutive quarter of declines and the biggest, listen to this, and the biggest since Germany's statistics office began keeping records in 2000. So this is just, did you hear that? This is a bigger year-over-year decline than they had during the GFC. Wow, they have structurally low supply of housing. Until 2022, there was a speculative bubble in Germany, one of the biggest in the last 50 years, said Konstantin Kolodin from Macroeconomic Department, German Institute of Economic Research. Prices have been falling ever since. The bubble has burst. And again, not to beat a dead horse, but the bubble has burst while you got structurally low supply. This is what I say over and over. In fact, we talked about it on the very last video that we did, that just because you have low inventory, that's actually bearish because you get a slight increase in the amount of homes for sale, and that's going to have a dramatic impact on nominal prices, not to mention real prices, which is what that thumbnail, that chart on the thumbnail shows you. They say for years, the property sector in Germany and elsewhere in Europe has boomed as interest rates were low and demand was strong. I wonder where I have heard that before. So there's one other country that I've heard the exact same thing. Maybe I'll probably remember it here in a second. But a sharp rise in rates and costs has put an end to the run, tipping developers into insolvency as bank financing dries up and deals freeze. The decline for single and two-family homes in major German cities, especially pronounced in the third quarter. Minus 12. Okay, so I was assuming that the 10.2% year over year meant that we're having quarterly declines of like, let's just say 3-4%. I guess not. It's getting dramatically worse. So that year over year number includes probably from 2022 or maybe the first Q1 of 2023, some positive numbers, some positive quarterly numbers. Because look at this, third quarter alone, they saw a decline of negative 12.7% in the third quarter alone. And keep in mind, guys, this is nominal. This is not adjusted for inflation. Throw inflation on top of that, and you're down 20% for the quarter. In German construction industry, the German construction industry, Federation said the home construction sector was headed for a further reduction in jobs. Think about how important the U.S. housing market is, not just for equity, not just for purchasing power, but for jobs. I mean, I remember vividly back in 2012 when I started investing in real estate. And I started improving a lot of these homes that I was buying directly from the bank. And I did the work. I didn't do the work myself, but I managed the crews myself. I hired the guys just to do the work. And that, fortunately, I had a lot of experience as an entrepreneur, so I could manage people well. So I just placed an ad on Craigslist. I remember this like it was yesterday. I put an ad up on Craigslist. It was like $12 an hour just for like handyman stuff. General plumbing, general electrical, tile setting, stuff like that. And within an hour, I had well north of 100 applications, resumes of qualified people at $12 an hour. This was back in 2012. And I also remember doing the exact same thing in 2015, 2016. Maybe it was 2000. Yeah, it was probably 2016 for some upkeep that I needed on my rental portfolio. Guess how many? Exact same ad. I just copy and pasted. Guess how many resumes I got? 0. Nada. This is one thing that most people don't even think about when it comes to a real estate decline. It's not just about real estate prices. It's about everything else that goes along with it, including jobs. Let's get over, and here's where they're talking about all these new projects, these housing projects in Germany that, as you can imagine, have been halted. Now, let's go over to Yahoo, just so you know that I'm not sensation. This isn't clickbait here. This is Yahoo Finance. This is not George Gammon. This is not Alex Jones talking. Brick and mortar meltdown. Germany's unprecedented, and that includes the GFC. Unprecedented housing crisis. And this is December 2023. Germany, Europe's largest economy, has been dealing with slower construction, stagnant demand, causing the property market to shrink rapidly. You don't say. The home building and construction sector is the first victim of higher interest rates. Plummeting housing demand, which is exactly what we've seen in the United States. You say, well, George, how have prices gone up? Because demand, supply is an all-time low, but that indicates that if prices aren't skyrocketing, demand is at an all-time low as well. So all you need is a slight tweak to the supply side, and you've got Germany. Wow, and they're just talking about the exact same thing. That I guess in the second quarter, prices fell by 9.9%. Now, again, with these, I don't know if they're adjusted for inflation. I would guess they're adjusted for inflation based on the last nominal chart that we saw. The construction sector in shambles. Those are their words, not mine. Here's a quote. Things continue to go from bad to worse in Germany's construction sector. The housing sector is the epicenter of the downturn, nosediving at breakneck speeds. Again, their words, not mine. This is according to Cyrus de la Rubia, chief economist at Hamburg Commercial Bank. And once again, guys, keep in mind, this is happening while they have a decade-long shortage of housing stock. The exact same thing that the bulls will tell you we have in the United States, which is why real estate prices can never, ever, 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 ever come down. The next time you have one of your friend or family member Freds point to that supply, next time you hear Dave Ramsey, just call him up and say, Dave, yeah, that short supply thing and housing prices never ever being able to go down with low inventories. Did you see Germany by chance? Yeah, down 13% in 1 quarter, my friend, nominal terms. So take that and stuff it in your short supply pipe and smoke it, Nutburger. All right, guys, enjoy the rest of your afternoon. As always, make sure that you're standing up for freedom, liberty, free market capitalism. If you want to check out my free reports on what I'm doing with my own portfolio to build wealth and thrive in 2024, you can check it out at georgegammon.com/2024. Josh, there you go. Put it in the description and the pinned comment. Guys, make sure you're standing up for freedom, liberty, free market capitalism. See you in the next video.